Hello, good evening and welcome to Law Excellence. So we are doing Kalam Program Season 3 and we are on the day 37 of Kalam Program. This week we are back to Indian society. So we had discussed Indian society on the third week. We discussed various issues. If you remember, if you can go back and recollect, we discussed issues ranging from India's diversity, women's issues, caste issues, and other things like poverty and globalization. This week, we take up a few other issues that are pending from the topic Indian society. We have four videos this week. We have 4 videos scheduled for this week, and the other 2 videos will be on ethics. So, from Monday to Thursday, we will do Indian society. And Friday and Saturday you will have videos on ethics. That's the schedule for this week. So let us look at this week's question on Indian society. This week we have taken an interesting question that is on family. So take a minute to observe this week's question, today's question. The question is about life cycle of a joint family. The life cycle of a joint family depends on economic factors rather than social values. Discuss. This is for 200 words and 12.5 marks. So you must roughly write about 2 pages. Now, what is our answer writing method? Whenever there is a question, what's our answer writing method? We first try to understand what is the intention, what is the essential idea in the question, and we then also try to identify what are the key words in the question. What are the key words? So what are the key words in this question? The key words are life cycle. This is a key word. Many of you would have missed it. Many of you would have thought joint family is the key word. But life cycle is a keyword, joint family is a keyword, and they are saying the life cycle depends on economic factors rather than social values. So they are asking us to discuss the statement. So questions such as this are different in the sense we just can't go about writing pros, cons, way forward and government schemes. So here an idea, a concept has been presented and they're asking us to explain the concept. So questions like this are about explaining. We have to explain the concept. This is about explaining through various examples, data, other things. So it's about explaining. But before that, I will quickly summarize this concept of life cycle of a joint family. Many students who are not with sociology optional will not be aware of this concept. So let's see what is this. This life cycle of a joint family. You are aware about life cycle of a butterfly. You have studied this in your high school. The life cycle of a butterfly or life cycle of a moth. But what is the life cycle of a joint family? So traditionally the issue is this. In the West we have joint family is an Indian concept. In the West we have what is called as extended family. Many people live under the same roof, extended family, and over a period of time as society and economy changed, as they moved from agriculture towards industry and urbanization, as the society shifted, social scene shifted from villages to urbanization and towns, we started moving from extended family, we started shifting towards nuclear family. This has been the shift in the West traditionally. So in India, it was believed that in India also there was joint family. We all know what is Indian joint family. Usually it is centered around parents and then there are the many brothers. So joint family in India is cornerstone of joint family in India are the many brothers. So some scholars felt in India also, as we shifted from agriculture and villages towards industry, towns and urbanization, joint family gave way to nuclear family. This is the idea that some scholar proposed. So, how is family changing? If anybody was asked the question, how is family changing? Then a near universal answer given by any layman is that we used to have joint family, but now we are increasingly shifting to nuclear family. This was the scenario in the West. But some scholars asked the question, is this true in India? Is this true in India? Can we say this is true? And then many sociologists did research, one in particular. So, the sociologists relevant here are I.P. Desai, A.M. Shah is the most important, I.P. Desai and A.M. Shah. They did some research and they found some interesting thing. They found an interesting aspect, that is, families were joint, they became nuclear, yes, they were joint, they became nuclear, and after some time period, the nuclear family once again became joint, and this joint used to become nuclear. So, what they saw was not a linear, simplistic one-way movement, but there was some kind of circular flow, some kind of circular movement from joint to nuclear and back to joint according to the condition. For example, let us say we draw these family diagrams. Let us say there are the parents and then there are many children, three children. So, these are the three sons of this couple. This is the couple. Now, this is joint, isn't it? Now, the couple, this is the joint family situation in first in one generation. Now, the children get married and things change like this. The parents live in village, and the sons go different ways. One son goes to Hyderabad, another son goes to Pune, another son gets job in Bangalore. And the children all are married, they are all married with the wife, and they have two sons. So, they migrated from, let us say, a small town like Warangal in Telangana. They all migrated to various metropolises, and the three brothers lived in three separate places. They had two sons, all of them had two sons. So, a triangle means son, a circle means a daughter or man and woman. Now, after marriage, all the sons chose to stay with their parents. All the sons, the children of all the three couples decided to stay with their parents for various reasons. Maybe because rents in these metropolises are very high. So, they decided to stay with their parents and raise their children together. So, now here in this situation, this was joint. Next, it became nuclear. Next, after nuclear, once again it became joint, isn't it? Here it was joint. Then after marriage, all the three brothers left to different cities, and for a while their family was just nuclear. Now, after the brothers married, after this three brothers, their sons married, and they had their own children. Now, this becomes once again joint family, and added to this, let us say this old couple fell sick. They cannot stay in Warangal anymore because there are no good care. They come and live with their son who is living in Hyderabad. Now, that son in Hyderabad, it will be his wife, his parents also come and stay with him, and his married children also are staying with him. So, this becomes a joint household again. So, they realized in India, it is not a simplistic linear one-way model, but rather some kind of cyclical system from one to another. So, in this way, the families were shifting. Joint family used to have a life cycle. It depends on this whether if family is joint or nuclear depends on the particular stage of life, whether it is early stage, later stage, and whether a family chooses to remain joint or nuclear is a mix of various economic reasons. It is primarily it is driven by economics. Especially in urban areas, some are choosing to remain joint because they can't afford to, all the children cannot afford to have different households because of increasing costs of living, rents and higher costs of living makes this difficult. The other reason why jointness is once again becoming possible is because, let's say a young couple gets married, both of them work, their parents live in a small town far away. But now since both of them work and they have 2 kids, now both of them leave to office and workplace. Now who will take care of these kids? They need somebody. Then usually they tend to call one of their parents, either the boy's parent, the man's parents or the wife's parents are requested to come and stay and take care of children while the couple goes to work. So in that sense, joint family makes a comeback in India from time and again. Joint family makes a comeback in India as an adaptation to a given situation. Now we have to see what are the factors that are necessitating this change. Under what conditions does joint family make a comeback time and again? That's the issue. So we have to discuss this issue in detail. So this is the concept, please. Now let's see how this answer has been presented. First, traditionally, let's look at the introduction. Traditionally, the family structure in India has been joint in nature. Yes, this is very good. I like this introduction because, one, in the beginning, the student has made a definition of joint family, and here she or he chose Airavati Karve. Airavati Karve is one sociologist who gave a very interesting and very elaborate definition of of joint family. What does she say? She says many things. It includes, what are the features she is referring to? 3 or 4 generations is one aspect. If you look at the definition carefully, 3 or 4 generations living together. So there must be 3 or 4 generations, and common living is another factor, living together. Eating food, same kitchen, they must live together and have same kitchen, and there must also be joint ownership of property. There is some joint ownership of property, and lastly some joint rituals. So all these are the aspects of joint family. This is a very good definition. Airavati Karve's definition is widely accepted as a very good definition of joint family. Next, some data has been presented. This is also good. According to 2011 census, there are 12.97 crore nuclear families in comparison with 9.88 crore of 2011 census. So here the student is pointing to a increasing trend of joint families. The student is saying joint families are increasing rather than decreasing. Many of us feel that joint families are on the decline, they are disappearing. But the student here is saying no, joint families are rather increasing, and some data has been used to support this. And then we have a diagram. This diagram also seems to be good, isn't it? Please look at the diagram. Here the life cycle of a joint family has been represented in a diagrammatic way. The joint becomes nuclear because of some reasons. The nuclear becomes joint because of some other reasons. What are these? Out marriage, children marry and leave, or death, the elders die, or for employment reasons they have to go to other cities. Next, when does nuclear become joint? The children get married, or there are new grandchildren, or sometimes, yes, this is an interesting factor. That is, sometimes some families tend to, some business families especially, this is seen in business families. Some business families, if you have noticed, they, despite being wealthy, they prefer to remain joint. Why? Many family-oriented businesses like Haldirams, Zindals, Hinduja Group. So many family-centered businesses tend to prefer to be joint because being joint makes sure that the industry or the assets of the business activity are together and the business can be run collectively by the family. The family can collectively run the business without having to depend on outsiders. So some big business families also have what is called as family constitution. You might be surprised to hear this. For example, the GMR Group is a famous infrastructure group that is into developing airports. They developed Delhi Airport, Hyderabad Airport, even Maldives they were developing, it became a controversy. So such people, they have developed what is called as family constitution to resolve disputes within this family owned businesses. If any members of the family have dispute, then the family constitution is used to adjudicate and next solve those disputes. Next, let's see what are the various reasons that have been given. So here economic reasons have been given, economic reasons for nuclearization. This we are familiar. Industry, what does industry according to here? Yes, this is a good reference to Talcott Parsons. Talcott Parsons is another sociologist, American sociologist, who studied nuclear family extensively and made many observations. Talcott Parsons believes that nuclear family is a most suitable structure, most suitable configuration for a urban scenario, because nuclear family has a unique property that is ease to adapt to mobility. Nuclear family can easily adapt to mobility. Hence, Talcott Parsons believes that nuclear families are flexible because of their ease of mobility, and that makes them good for an industrial society, because in an industrial economy one has to keep moving from one city to another in search of job as the job market changes. One cannot say I will always live in my town and my village. So industrial economy calls for geographic mobility, and when geographic mobility is needed, a joint family becomes a liability because the whole joint family cannot move, whereas nuclear family, due to its small size, it's a smaller group, it has ease of mobility. Urbanization, likewise. Globalization, yes, equally. Similar reasoning can be applied to globalization as well, like IT professionals, good. Land reforms is another reason. Very good. This is a good point, that to escape the land ceilings given by enacted by Land Reforms Act, many families suddenly started, brothers of joint families became nuclear, because by creating smaller families, greater land could be owned by these groups, and thus they could escape the land ceilings that have been formulated. So these are the various reasons for nuclearization. Next, there are some economic reasons for also going back to joint. This is a reason for becoming nuclear. There are economic reasons for becoming joint as well. What are they? Wealth consolidation. This we discussed. Haldirams of Nagpur. Good presentation. Next, there are also social. It's not the economic reasons are the most important. There are also some social reasons that are driving this trend. What are they? For example, modernization and westernization. Modernization, westernization. We follow American goods, American habits, American ways of life. Likewise, we tend to follow American family system also, Western family system, and that is nuclear. That's why even our movies, our TV commercials, all of them tend to glorify the idea of a good nuclear family. The other more important change is feminism. This is also very important. Many students tend to ignore this, skip this. That is, women, with the rise of feminist movements, women have been demanding more freedom and more voice in the family. And joint families, the one thing joint families lack is joint families. Women find this very, very tough. Women find joint family environment very suppressive. They find this environment very suppressive and difficult to handle. So many women have issues with joint family. That's why women tend to, if they are married into joint family, they tend to make efforts to break towards a nuclear family, because in nuclear family, women have greater freedom and enjoy very few restraints. They have more freedom and fewer restraints. So whenever feminist movements and women's voice has been rising, it naturally also led to increase in nuclear families. Then we also see some emerging ideologies like individualism and privacy. Many people are wanting privacy. Earlier in joint family, for example, there is privacy is mostly absent. Privacy is absent. There is no concept of privacy. In fact, if you demanded privacy, you would attract the ridicule of other members in the family. So privacy is absent. So demands for privacy is also pushing towards joint family. And we also have what is called a secularization of family. This is also leading to increase in jointness, increase in nuclearization. Next, what are the reasons for rejoinedness? What are the social reasons for some wanting to go back to rejoinedness? Like I said, grandchildren, taking care of grandchildren, and some negative changes in marriage are also the reason. Like, let's say a divorce happens, then the single father or single mother cannot raise the child herself or himself. They need parent support. Then many times a nuclear family is the issue with, so we may glorify nuclear family, but the problem with nuclear family is that they are heavily loaded in terms of emotions, because the couple have to meet each other's emotional needs. That's why you can take note of this thinker, a sociologist called Edmund Leach, sociologist and anthropologist. Edmund Leach called nuclear family a highly loaded electrical circuit which may explode at any time. He called nuclear family a highly loaded electrical circuit because since the couple are isolated from all the other relatives, they have to meet each other's emotional needs, and since they are isolated from all the other relatives, if there is any small disruption also, it creates enormous stress. But in a joint family, there are many relatives who are there to supply you with your emotional needs. Hence, even if the marital bond goes through a phase of difficulty, the marriage does not break. But in a nuclear family, the marriage bond has enormous stress, and any small phase of disruption can actually lead to breaking of the marriage. So that is the issue. And so these are the negative changes. Marriage is going through some negative changes, and that's the reason sometimes jointness is being preferred to fill in the voids that is being created by this negative changes in marriage. Finally, how do we conclude? Thus, both economic and social reasons play a role. And yes, here A.M. Shah has been quoted. I've been looking for A.M. Shah, and A.M. Shah has finally been quoted. So if you quote A.M. Shah, that sends a very, very positive message, because A.M. Shah's work on life cycle of a family has been applauded by many. So what is A.M. Shah saying? A.M. Shah is saying, in the West we saw a linear change from joint extended to nuclear, but India is a unique case where we are still joint in orientation, though not in. This is good. This is a good idea. What is A.M. Shah? Let me describe this idea to you. Maybe it may not be very straightforward from the answer. What is A.M. Shah saying? A.M. Shah is saying, one, yes, there is a life cycle approach. He is also saying another thing. Another thing is, at one point of time, there used to be joint family and all people used to live together. So, living together was under the same roof was a prerequisite. But A.M. Shah is saying, in the West, they moved towards perfect nuclear families after the joint family broke down, and they moved to perfect nuclear families where the brothers etc. did not coordinate with one another. But in India, joint family, yes, the brothers are migrating to different places. One may live in village, another may move to different towns. It is creating many nuclear families. But Aim Shah is saying something interesting. Even though these brothers go different ways and form nuclear families, they still maintain some jointness. They may not live under the same roof, but their jointness in orientation, that is, they help each other out economically, socially, children's education, healthcare needs, whatever. So they may be living under a different roof. The only thing that has changed is that they are not living into the same household, but they are living separately, but they still continue to coordinate, help each other and face each other and stay as emotional and moral support to each other. So A.M. Shah has said, joint family has not disappeared, rather its nature has changed. Its nature has changed from being joint as under the same roof to having jointness in orientation, even though they are living under different households. This is what A.M. Shah said, and bringing A.M. Shah is a very insightful way of concluding this answer. So that concludes this answer. And for tomorrow, 14th, we have another question. Please look at this. This question is on poverty. Please take this question and attempt an answer for this, and we'll come up with a model answer for this tomorrow. Until then, take care. Goodbye.